Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Virgo for July 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, or click on the link below this video to see more about my personal live coaching. Also to see more about my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine, which is available on a sliding scale and is intended to help you navigate through the stormy weathers of the starry aspects in the most wonderful, easy, graceful way you possibly can. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what's going on in July? We have a wild roller coaster ride this month. We start out with the sweetness of the second half of June, continuing into the first days of the month. And then after that, we have madness. So things that you're trying to launch, things you're trying to get out there, decisions you're having to make, things you're trying to do, try to get them in the end of June into the first couple of days of July. That's your last window, because then we've got crazy aspects and then we have Venus retrograde. So it's going to be back to this just really focusing in. I am calling out for you to prepare your studio space. That's one of my themes for this month. Whatever your space is where you artistically express yourself, you offer to the world the things that are unique to you. It's one of my favorite things about astrology is that you can see in someone's chart all of these complex factors that make them unique. We're like snowflakes. There's no one of us that is the same, even twins and triplets. There are differences in the chart, and there are differences in the expression. And there's a way that you're bringing your thing out into the world. And if you're not, then maybe this is a month that can facilitate that for you. We have really exciting things coming with Jupiter getting ready to go into your sign. So we're going to talk about that as well. But right here at the beginning of the month, we still have the carryover of that beautiful trine of Uranus and Jupiter. And Uranus has been making this beautiful aspect to Jupiter. It's really been a loose aspect since last summer, but it got tighter again, and then it got looser, and now it got exact here at the end of June. And so because these are outer planets that take a long time to go around, the effects of them being in this beautiful aspect aren't really waning significantly as the days are passing from June 22nd, June 23rd, when it was exact. So into July, we're really feeling this beautiful inspiration and expansion and growth in everything involving our creativity, children, romance, because Jupiter is in this sign of Leo, which rules children and fun and games and hobbies and true love as well. So most Virgos have this Jupiter aspect in their 12th house, and this is more of a quiet place. This time of Jupiter transiting your solar 12th house, and this is going to be more for you early and most of you middle degree placements. The rest of you still have Jupiter in your house of friends and social scenes. So you're not quite moving into that quiet space yet, but it's coming for you. So when Jupiter's in this house of quiet, it's like a really good time to be reclusive. If you've noticed over time lately you've been more reclusive, Jupiter may have something to do with that. So this is the first part of the symphony. You've had this Jupiter making you more internal, more connected to the unseen realms, more quiet, more looking into things that are psychologically based, or unseen things, we'll call them, intuitive things. Then at the beginning of the month, besides having a full moon, which is beautiful aspects to Neptune, which we'll talk about, we've got Venus, which rules love, beauty, and money, making a conjunction to Jupiter. So now Uranus is in this beautiful angle to Jupiter, enlivening what's going on there, preparing you, doing this internal work for when Jupiter crosses over your ascendant, which is going to happen very soon for you early degree placements. In August, that will officially happen, but you're starting to feel it brew, like things you've been doing internally are just ready to bust out of the seams. And like I said, depending on your degree of your placement, you're going to be at a different stage of this process of going within, going deep, and then getting ready for this new rebirth. The rebirth happens when you have this Jupiter go into your sign. So Venus is here making this beautiful aspect, and then in the first several days of July we have Mercury coming, and it's in, for most of you, it's in your house of work. career, life purpose, and it's making this beautiful aspect both to the Venus and Jupiter and to the Uranus. So it's enlivening this trine. So Uranus, for pretty much all of you, is in the 8th house. And the 8th house is the house of other people's money. This can be inheritances, this can be sweepstakes, this can be spousal money, this can be court money that comes to you in a court case, money you find on the street. I know someone who won $1 million in a sweepstakes when they had Uranus in their 8th house. It was transiting something in their 8th house, but still, this is a powerful time where things can come in out of the blue involving other people's money. And so that is connected to this quiet place, things behind the scenes, now involving love, beauty, money with Venus. Then Mercury is coming here, and a key person, a key contact, something happens that is activating all of this even more. So at the same time, we have the first full moon of the month. We have 2 full moons this month. The first is on July 1st. The second is on July 31st. It's not usual that we have 2 full moons in a month. So the full moon is going to be in Capricorn. You early degree placements and some of you middle degree placements are going to experience this in the 5th house. The 5th house is the house that we've been talking about that Jupiter is accentuating through the sign Leo. So Jupiter is in your 12th house, but it's in the sign of Leo, which rules the 5th house. So that brings even more of this 5th house energy in. Creativity, you know, kids are one of the ultimate creations. They're grouped in the same section. Work with kids, your kids, other people's kids. And sometimes people who don't have kids, their creative projects are their babies. Sometimes when people have kids, their creative projects are still like babies. Whatever these things are that you're protecting that are near and dear to you, this is getting accentuated with this full moon. So something coming to completion, something coming to fruition. Neptune is beautifully aspecting this full moon. Different than the full moon we had at the beginning of June, where Neptune was in a challenging aspect. We've got a beautiful aspect here, Neptune aspecting the sun and moon. At the same time as all this Venus and Jupiter conjunction is happening and Mercury is making these favorable angles. So just like it's an astrological power time. So it's really like the icing on the cake before we eat the cake and the cake is gone and then the ants start coming and the bugs start coming, and that part is like the middle of July when the mess happens after this sweet pinnacle. So we're in the sweet pinnacle right here at the beginning of the month. As of July 6th, and every time I give you a date, remember that the energy really stretches before and after that date. There's orbs of energy. It's not just on that day. So you might feel it a little sooner. You might feel it a little after. But the sun makes this opposition to Pluto. Many of you are going to be experiencing this in the 5th house. Again, with children, creativity, something involving true love or romance or hobbies. This is also the house of gambling and some of these vices that we have. So just be very aware to not overindulge during this time, because negative outcomes can be more pronounced with this aspect, because we've got the sun coming and opposing Pluto. Then later in the month, we have Mercury and Mars coming in opposing Pluto. And this can be kind of volatile and combustive. So this is either happening in your 5th house or your 4th house of home and family, or in your house of children or creativity or romance. So there's just kind of nasty times afoot, and you want to have your wits about you. You want to be aware. You want to trust your instincts. You want to trust your intuition. If something feels not right, stay away from it. So that you just have to keep your feelers out more during this time. So that's happening, and it starts this sequence of challenging energies. But before that, we have Mars and then Mercury making this beautiful aspect to Neptune. So this is one of those other reasons why I said be in the studio, because any beautiful aspects we have to Neptune can just bring this amazing creativity that just comes out of nowhere, and you can just bust something out that's beautiful. It's like, wow, I made that. That's really cool. And Neptune also rules water, so favorable things involving water or water-related things. I'm learning more about astrology all the time. I'm seeing even the smallest, most mundane ways these things can manifest. A lot of times, I'm very focused on the big picture, you know, bigger stories, the spiritual picture, that I'm not looking at some of more of the mundane details, but I'm being reminded recently that something just as simple as, let's say you wanted an awesome water system or a pool in your house. These favorable aspects to Neptune can bring in your dishwasher if you didn't have one, or the one that you wanted, can bring in your water softener, or it can bring in your Kangen water system, if that's what you've been trying to get. You know, something favorable involving water is strongly indicated here. And that's on the 8th and the 13th. Then on the 12th, we have the first square with Uranus of one of the personal planets. We have Sun square Uranus. And this is like awkward, and this is something that could be nerve jangling, and this could be really annoying. It's the first of these two personal planets squaring Uranus, which again is like in your 8th house. So it could be something annoying with your in-laws. It could be something involving also the internet, because the Sun for many of you is in that place, social media, things like that. So then we have Venus squaring Saturn, and that's always kind of annoying. Most of you have, well, pretty much all of you will have Saturn still in your 3rd house. And this is the house of communication. This is the house of transportation. This is the house of siblings, a lot of your relatives, not your parents or children, but other relatives. And we're having Saturn dipping back into Scorpio and really giving you some last lessons in discipline in this house of communication and mobility. And now in this challenging aspect to Venus, it could bring something involving money, or you have to buy a new device, or finally your computer blows up or something like that, or you drop your, you know, phone in the toilet. Something expensive involving communication in some way, or mobility, something with your car. If you have to buy a car or a device and you have been waiting for Mercury to go direct, you have a period of time at the end of June into just these first couple of days of July. You're still in the Venus retrograde shadow period, but it's going to be your best time if you have to buy a car, if you have to buy something expensive, if you have to buy a communication device. Try to do it by those first couple of days of July. And actually it could be quite favorable because you have all these beautiful aspects. Now, if you're looking for something of value used or for like a bargain price, where you're like getting it for free basically almost, Venus retrograde, which starts at the end of the month, July 25th, is a really good time to get bargains, but not buy luxury items at regular price or not do design projects. We'll get more into that. So the humdinger of the month is July 15th. We have this new moon in Cancer, which brings new energy involving home and family, new things involving groups or networking or friendships for most of you Virgo placements where that new moon will occur. But then we've got all this baggage that we've already discussed, and we have Mercury and Mars coming and now opposing Pluto. Mars rules how you use your energy. Mercury rules your mobility and your communication, and they're both coming here and making this opposition to Pluto after the Sun already did that. You know, so you could be catching some flack either at work, you could be catching some flack in your social group, or there could be kind of a dramatic event or something stressful, some kind of authority figure involved here. Pluto is acting very much like Saturn for a long time because it's in the sign Capricorn, which Saturn rules. So there's a lot of Saturnian expressions that are being associated with Pluto transits. So if you're learning the key words that have to do with planets, and you're noticing that when we're talking about Pluto, some of these key words are coming up that are Saturn words, that's why. Because for a really long time, Pluto is in Capricorn, and it's adding these Saturnian lessons, adding its combustive, volatile, birth, death, rebirth, transformation energy to the Capricorn energy. So those things are going on. And then on July 18th, we have Mercury now coming and squaring Uranus. And this can bring challenging news involving other people's money, or involving in-laws, or involving your spouse, or something having to do with other people's money, or jointly held money. July 21st and July 23rd, we have this, I call it a wee part in like the wooden rickety roller coaster. We have this like nice little sweet slide down where it's like, oh, okay, yay, we have this July 21st through July 23rd, the Sun and Mercury are conjunct. That's a power time, and they're making this nice aspect to Saturn. So that grumpy old guy, Saturn, is always bestowing gifts when there's something in a nice angle. So some positive things can come from the challenges in the middle of the month, even that Venus and Saturn square. Something positive can come from that in the form of this conjunction of the Sun and Mercury trining Saturn. So then July 25th, we have this Venus going into retrograde. Try to avoid redesigning your house. Try to avoid making big decisions with love, beauty, money. Not the best time for cosmetic surgery. Actually, the worst time for cosmetic surgery. If you're planning cosmetic surgery and it is elective and it is between close to July 25th and September 8th, cancel it. That is my suggestion. You have to follow your heart, and unless something supersedes this in your chart, there are always caveats to these recommendations, and something in your chart that's very strong could supersede a general transit. But in general, Venus rules beauty. So you don't want to make a big decision about beauty when Venus is not well aspected. And when it's in retrograde, it's going backwards and it doesn't have its full steam. Same thing with relationships and same thing with money. You're not seeing clearly. It's like you've got these warped glasses on and you're not viewing love, beauty, and money clearly. So then it's like once it passes, then you're like, wow, what did I do? You know? So you want to look backwards over things involving love, beauty, and money. It's a great time to take investing classes, to start to learn your budget, to go over and see where you're making money, where you're losing money. I've known people who have had their own businesses who don't even know how much it costs to make their products. So they don't really know exactly how much they're making on it. It's crazy. Then this is the kind of, I mean, then you can't really be very successful in business unless you can do that or you hire someone to do that. There's only so far you can go with your work. This is a wonderful time to figure out what the heck is going on with your money because you're going backwards over money. Also, one of the best times ever to plan couples counseling, even if it's proactive, even if you don't have anything really going on in your relationship. Spending time together, going over things that are unresolved, because Venus retrograde is going to bring up all those old things in love that are not resolved. They could also bring back harmony and beautiful things that, you know, are getting reawakened in your relationship. That can definitely happen. But sometimes it happens through looking at the things that seem wrong and working with them and converting them into this beautiful energy. But people are going to be reconsidering their relationships left and right during Venus retrograde. Great time to reconsider, not a great time to make a decision about it. Again, unless something in your chart supersedes it, your personal chart supersedes it, you're not, every day you might be having new awarenesses or awakenings. So you don't really want to make a finite final decision until you can be sure that that's what you want to do. Now, if something is pending and has been pending for a long time, it might reach its completion or come to fruition in the Venus retrograde. Also, people who are separated from their beloved may have them return to them during that time. And also people, a love from the past can come back for you to reconsider. But again, you know, try to wait until after September 8th, at least, to make like a full commitment based on the reevaluation of someone coming back in your life, because you could get committed and by the time Venus goes direct, you're like, yeah, don't really want to do that. So save yourself some drama. If you're pending, like let's say your relationship is developing, you have a new relationship and it's moving along. Try to avoid moving in together in Venus retrograde or getting engaged in Venus retrograde. You know, anything big with your new step in love, try to avoid that in Venus retrograde because it's just the energy isn't as strong for it. And you want that money, love, beauty, aesthetics, harmony planet to be like in full blazing glory when you make your birthdays for these big milestones. So then on July 26th, we have Uranus going retrograde, and Uranus in Aries is really making us ask these questions about freedom. What is freedom? What is freedom to you? You know, Uranus is this live wire of a planet. I want to talk just for a second about life cycles. There are so many things that people associate with certain ages that are really astrologically based that people think are age-based. Like for instance, people will say the divorce rate is less for people who get married after 30. Why do you think that is? Because they've had their Saturn return already. You go through this very important life cycle between 28 and 30 called Saturn return, where you really come into yourself and you establish some certain important things. So it's not a coincidence then that the divorce rate would be decreased for people that get married after 30. Something that we call midlife crisis that happens around someone's, you know, early 40s or late 30s into early 40s, that is astrologically based as well. That is called Uranus opposition. That means Uranus in the sky is opposing Uranus in your chart, and it's making all these things about freedom come up and be really strong. That's why people dye their hair red and get sports cars and say, I've lived my life for everyone else and now I'm doing something for me. You know, it's just such a typical energy with that time, and Uranus is at the source of that. So here we've got Uranus moving into retrograde, and it's making us ask these questions. Am I free? What is freedom? What is freedom to me now? What is my new definition of freedom? How can I be more free? How can I be more free within my relationships? That's going to be related to the Venus retrograde. You know, how can we create more freedom together? This is not a time, again, to make hasty decisions per se. It's a time to ask the questions. And ultimately, I believe that the reasons why we're not free is because of unintegrated childhood perceptions, things that got locked in at childhood. If you believe in past lives, it got locked in before then. If you don't, then it got locked in childhood. And we're still living stuck in our pattern of things that were imprinted in our childhood. And our freedom comes from integrating our conscious and our unconscious mind in our adult and our childhood life. That's what I believe. So Uranus comes up and makes you ask these questions. We have to make sure not to displace this thing of freedom on somebody or on a relationship. It always originates within you. And the relationship or the circumstances is the expression, but not the cause. It's actually the effect. So in order to properly create the best things around you, we have to locate and work with the origin within us. And that may involve leaving a relationship, that may involve doing something different, but it's only going to be helpful if you clear it up within you. Otherwise, you'll just attract the same thing in someone else. Make all that ruckus only to be in the same situation again with different, details around it. So Uranus is going to bring up these questions. Then we have the last full moon on July 31st. And this is going to have Venus in retrograde. Venus in retrograde in Leo. And so when Venus is in Leo, it wants to add more drama to things, So we have more fullness. I always say save some space around the full moon. Try not to overplan yourself. Sometimes you might feel this a few days before as well, so you can deal with whatever comes up. So I can't see what's going on in your chart. I would like very much to, if you would like to have a live coaching session with me, you can go to my website, aspiritualspark.com. Also, you can check out my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine. I am so excited about this. It's available on a sliding scale so that it's accessible to everyone. It helps you to work with challenges that are inside of you that are creating ruckuses outside of you. And I based this on my work with all different kinds of people from every different country and every different age. We all have the same questions and problems, more or less. It's kind of crazy. And this program helps you deal with these human situations where we're all linked in our humanity. And that's what we're working on with the program. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. You can get my monthly write-up for the upcoming month so that you have some of these things I talk about in a written version. That's part of your perks of being in my community. And I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.